We're Jimmy and Natalie, and this is our self-converted schoolie.
After 3 years of working in the corporate world, Natalie and I decided to quit our jobs so that we could work on the bus and live in it full time while we travel and explore all across North America.
So building out the bus took us 6 months and about $27,000. The initial price of the bus was $7,000, and then we spent $20,000 on the conversion. That being said, let's show you our bus.
So starting on the outside with some specs of our bus, we have a 1997 International 3800 mid-size schoolie. It's 5 windows, 25 feet long, and roughly 12 feet in height. So we have International's version of the 7.3 liter diesel engine. It is the T444E, and we get roughly 10 miles to the gallon.
So as you're walking inside the bus, the very first thing that you see just happens to be the very first project that Jimmy and I took on with this conversion, and that's these wooden doors. When we got the bus, the bottom 2 windows were actually busted out. So we were gonna have to find some kind of solution, and rather than replace them with regular bus windows, we took it as an opportunity to add some extra flavor to the outside of the bus and a little bit more privacy. So this is the front cab area, obviously where we sit to drive the bus. We pretty much left it alone, but we did install a swivel seat, which is really nice because it really lets us incorporate the driver's seat into our living area, and it's always nice to have extra seating. We also installed a phone mount. We have a driver's fan that has 3 speeds and runs off of DC power. We also installed this backup camera. Our backup camera is powered by our house batteries, which is really nice because we can turn it on even when the bus is not running. We painted the dash black just so that it looks a little bit more sharp. And we left the original door mechanism because we really like it. We think it adds character to the bus. Moving back into the living space of the bus, this is our couch. It has an L shape technically and the smallest chaise lounge you've ever seen. We really wanted to have a nice comfortable couch, and this was the biggest chaise lounge that we could fit in the space, so we're happy with it. It makes it a little bit more comfortable. One of the things that I was very insistent upon having in our bus is a clean place to hide all of our charging cables for phones, watches, like pretty much anything that you need to plug into a USB outlet. We made this charging cabinet, and it has 2 USB ports on the inside, so we can leave our phone chargers in here and it looks nice, and we can close it away so we don't have wires cluttering up our bus. We also have our WeBoost antenna in here, which is really helpful for boosting our cell signal, which is very important to us because we use a hotspot for our Wi-Fi. So from our couch, we are facing our television. So let me show you how it works. And so that's how we set up our TV. So we have these gate latches that we use, and we hook it onto some eye hooks that are fastened to our upper cabinets, and that's how we hook it into place. We have this cabinet for it that it flips down into, and we padded it with foam. So whenever we are traveling, we have the TV down and it is supported by the foam. We have hit some pretty big bumps and the TV's working just fine. It definitely makes it feel more like a home, but it doesn't encroach on our kitchen counter space. So if you're interested in numbers, this is a 40-inch TV and it pulls about 4 amps when we're using it. One final finishing, very luxurious touch that we put in our living room setup. We have LEDs around the entire bus that we inset into the trim, and it's wrapped around into the bedroom area. It's just like a nice extra touch. Not very functional, but it's super fun. So let me put the TV back and I can show you our kitchen setup. One thing that was very important to both of us whenever we decided to build out a schoolie was making sure that we had a large enough sink. We went with the biggest sink that we could fit. We can wash any of our dishes, even the huge pots, in this sink with no problem. This sink faucet is actually the first thing we bought after purchasing the bus. And another thing that we have not used yet, but if we ever go to the beach, I think it'll come in handy, we can actually point this faucet outside and we'll have an outdoor shower. So we haven't used it yet, but that's kind of a neat feature that might come in handy one day. So next to our sink, we have a little bit of counter space, which is mostly used when we're drying dishes. So we have a 2-burner gas stove with a fast burner and a simmer burner. To be honest, we have still never used the fast burner because even on its lowest setting, it's still pretty powerful, so we haven't really needed it, even though this is how we cook most of our meals. In total, we have 7.5 feet of counter space, which helps contribute to the open concept and feel of the bus. We also have a good amount of storage. So in here is where we keep our bowls and plates. We also keep our cups. We actually use mason jars as our cups because they will fit on a typical average household blender. We can save space by bringing our blender, but not the giant pitcher that comes with it. So if we want to make a smoothie, we can just put the ingredients in one of these mason jars, attach it to the blender, and power it from there. Also in here we have our toiletries. We keep most of them in this basket, so it's like our toothbrushes and deodorant. It fits pretty well in the space, and it's convenient to have it right next to the sink. In this cabinet, we have a lot of our food storage, mostly my breakfast and coffee stuff, some fruits and veggies, and our spices, which I know our spice assortment is pitiful. Maybe we'll build up one day. And finally, this is our largest overhead kitchen cabinet. This has most of our pantry food in it, so like canned food, pasta, stuff like that. And we do have one more section for pantry storage, and that's up here. We kind of call this our snack cabinet. So it's got like pretzels, Pop-Tarts, bread, stuff like that. The idea with this cabinet being up here was that these are the things that are most likely to get critters because it's like open bags that you try to reseal. So if we do get critters, it should be easier to usher them out of the front door versus if they were in the middle of the bus. We haven't had that problem yet, but we're trying to think ahead and realize that it might be an issue down the road. For our countertop, we initially wanted to go with butcher block, but we did this build in the peak of the lumber shortage. So as a cost-cutting measure, we decided to go with some edge-glued panel, which has turned out great for us. We have 2 4-foot sections here that were about $20 each. So the entire countertop was 40 bucks, where if we had gotten butcher block, it would have easily been more than 300. So it seems to work really well for what we need, even for holding up our television. For this wall, we went with some peel and stick tile, which has worked great for us so far. And here's our light switch for most of the lights in the bus. We did put it on a dimmer. Under here, we have our vent-free hot water heater. We went back and forth over what kind of water heater to use for a long time, and this seemed like the best option because we could put it inside safely. It has a built-in mechanism where it'll cut off if it's not getting enough oxygen. So ideally it should cut itself off before it starts producing any carbon monoxide, but just to be safe, we have a carbon monoxide detector inside of this cabinet. And if we're gonna take a long hot shower or something like that, we will usually open these doors just so it has some extra air. We also use this cabinet for our trash can. We do have a refrigerator and freezer in here. This is the Dometic CFX, and I believe it's the 75-liter model. These are 2 separate compartments. We have this one with our refrigerated stuff, and this one is set to a freezer. You can set the temperatures on your own, so you could have either 2 refrigerators or 2 freezers, any kind of combination. We built it on a heavy-duty slide so that we can push it into our cabinet and pull it out when we need to access it, so we're able to utilize the storage space above it. So this is our refrigerator. We can pull it out for cleaning. And here is our freezer compartment. This has 2 removable sections. So there's this one and a small one at the bottom. So above our refrigerator, we have our silverware drawer and this outlet. Throughout the entire bus, we didn't do any window deletes, so it's really open in here, but we still need it to be private and climate controlled, so I made all of these window coverings for every window in the bus. The coolest ones are the ones that pull up from inside the wall. I really wanted to do this so that we didn't have a bunch of floating window coverings with no permanent home. So here's how they work. So we just pull them up from behind the wall and hook them into place on these fish hooks or cup hooks. They have reflectix inside, so it's nice and climate controlled. You can't see anything from the outside when we have all of these up. It's really private. Moving on, we have our microwave here. This is a 900 watt microwave. It's obviously powered by our inverter. We honestly don't use it that much, but it's really nice to have it as an option, especially since we don't have an oven in this build. So it's really good for reheating things if we have enough power or sunlight to do so. And underneath our microwave, we have a pretty large storage cabinet, which has most of our gear and camera equipment in it. So whenever we're on the road, we have these barrel latches for most of our drawers, which keep them in place. We have gate latches to hold the refrigerator in place. So we hook those in on either side, and that keeps it from pulling out while we're driving. So finally, we have this little quirky looking storage space. We measured the exact height of a bunch of our pans and one of our pots stacked together so that they all fit in there just right. This is also where we keep some of our like sauces and canola oil. We keep a lot of dry rice in here, and we also have our blender and usually an air popcorn maker, which I use quite a bit.
So after we've made our meals in the kitchen area, we usually come here and eat at our dinette. Here we have two medium-sized benches. They're each about 36 inches long, which is, I'm gonna say, perfect for two people on either side. It is a little cramped, but we wanted to be able to host, but we also didn't want to encroach too much into the living area. So we've got these medium-sized dinettes and a swivel table in the middle. It does swivel back and forth enough to allow us to get in and out and to lift up the seats to get to the under bench storage. It is on a Laguna table mount, so it's removable. I can just pop it off and we can have a lot more floor space. And it just feels like we have twice as much room. We usually don't have to take it off because it's just the two of us in here, but when we have company, it is nice to have that extra little bit of walk-in room. We wanted to make everything in the bus as functional as possible, so we tried to use every inch of space that we could underneath the dinette benches. So on this side, if I open this panel up, is where all of our electrical system is. We've got our batteries, inverter, and solar charge controller, all of which we can talk about later. But this is where that's stored. So it might be a little hard to see, but right here we have a cutout that allows us about 8 inches of space where we put all of our control panels and monitors for the electrical system. So we've got the solar charge controller here, our on-off switch for the inverter, our battery monitor, as well as the WeBoost that Natalie had mentioned. So this one is pretty much just dedicated to all electrical. We don't really put anything else in the storage area. But the other one, we have our Chinese diesel heater. We've only had to use it for about a week, and it has made those 40-degree nights so comfortable. So next to it, we have a 10-liter diesel tank that it uses for fuel. Our bus does run off of diesel, and so in the future, we do plan on trying to hook this up directly to our bus's fuel tank, but we didn't get that far. Other than that, we've got plenty of extra storage in here. We usually keep shoes, some extra cans, as well as a quick access toolbox. While we're on the subject of storage, we can turn back to our couch. You see this one large storage drawer here, which is just where we keep our large pots and pans, as well as our Instapot and our rice cooker. But actually, underneath these couch cushions here, we have some more hidden storage. And pop that open, and then this is the rest of our food storage. This is stuff that we don't really access very often, or if we just buy tons of cans just to stock up for a few weeks, it all goes down here. Natalie and I call it our cold storage. We can fit a surprising amount of food in there. So the last thing I wanted to mention about the dinette area was this amazing accent wall that Natalie spent about 2 weeks making. She took scrap wood from our previous projects and cut them all up, and she stained and polyed them and got this really nice geometric pattern going on for our dinette space. I really love it, and I feel like it adds a little bit of uniqueness to our bus. So one thing Natalie and I knew we wanted in our bus build was our own bathroom. That being said, we did try to reduce the size of it as much as we could, and I literally don't think we could have made it any smaller. The entrance is a total of 17 inches wide, which is very small, but it's doable. Inside, it does expand to the width of one bus window, which is about 2.5 feet. And that is the perfect size to fit our Nature's Head composting toilet. Because size was such an issue, we had to be kind of creative about how we're going to have a toilet and shower in the same room. So what we did was we created a small wet room cubby for the toilet to store into when we want to take a shower. We have the toilet on a wooden cart with wheels on it that'll allow us to roll it into the cubby, which sits underneath the bed, kind of on the left side here. And we've used it for over a month now, taking showers, and it works really well. It's the perfect amount of space for us. So when we started the build, we had big dreams and a big budget. Towards the end of the build, we still had the big dreams, but a smaller budget. So instead of tiling the bathroom, we decided to go with the cheaper FRP board, which stands for fiberglass reinforced plastic, and it allows us to have a very cheap waterproof solution to our little bathroom wet room area. Since the floor is such an odd shape, we couldn't just use a generic 3x3 shower pan. So what we did was we laid down the FRP board and then we coated the entire base in Flex Seal. So that allowed us to have a thick, rubbery seal for the bottom that prevents any leaking or moisture getting into the cracks around the shower floor. And finally, we decided to keep the window that's in the back of this room accessible. So all we did was we put a static adhesive blackout panel that allows it to be waterproof and blackout from the inside, but it's small enough that allows us to drop the window down and open it up to get some fresh air if we need.
Underneath our bed, we have a little bit of accessible hanging storage, which we use for jackets and hats. Most of our clothes are stored in the bedroom area. It's pretty tall, so we usually step up on the dinette to get in. So this is our bed. It is a full-size bed, although we cut off the corner at the top so that we could fit the shower. We have 2 max air fans in the bus, and this is one of them. We wanted to have one directly over the bed to keep the air circulating and keep it from feeling stale in here at night. We got the max air fans with the rain covers, so we can leave them on even if it's raining outside. We also have another fan in the back that is the same kind as at the driver's seat. On this back wall, we have an AC outlet, the control panel for our diesel heater, and the light switches for the bedroom, which is these 2 lights, and for our shower. We keep most of our clothes in these 2 overhead storage compartments. This one is mine, and we have them on gas struts. And this one is Jimmy's. We have another overhead storage compartment back there that is just kind of for an extra blanket and extra towels. It's mostly empty right now. And moving even further back here, we have kind of a nightstand area that fits above our bed. This is my compartment and this is Jimmy's. We each have our own. There are USB ports in both of them. Over here we have a third hatch. This is our laundry hamper and it leads into the garage. Let's go to the garage and we can show you that.
So like Natalie mentioned, we have our hamper that is connected through our nightstand all the way through, and I can access it from the garage area here. It sits on top of this white box, which is our propane safety box. Basically, it's just an airtight box that we put our propane tank in so that if the propane does leak, then it just flows downwards through the vent outside. Next to it is our water intake, which is actually something I'm very proud of. We wanted to have 100 gallons of fresh water on the bus because we wanted to boondock for as long as possible and not have to do constant refills. So when we were doing our planning, we did not have room for a 100-gallon tank, but we did have room for 2 freshwater tanks. So long story short, one 40-gallon to my left, a 55-gallon in the middle, and then we have another 55-gallon that we use for gray water mounted on the right side here. So for our freshwater intake, we have a garden hose splitter that allows us to control which of the 2 water tanks we're filling up. Similar to that, we do have on our freshwater pull a second garden hose splitter that we can then control which of the 2 freshwater tanks we're pulling from, which, because we don't have a meter in either of these, it's a great way to indicate on our side when we're getting low on water. And that pretty much leaves us, everything else under here is for our garage storage, which we usually have full of our outdoor inflatable kayaks and just extra tools. I'm in love with the amount of space back here. It's been really nice. So moving on to the other door, we have a secondary handicap door that we use to access most of our electrical system. So on this side, other than just extra storage, is our electrical system. We built this box around our inverter just to protect it and to keep it separated from the rest of the storage. So opening this up, we can access most of our electrical. In here, we have our 3 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate batteries from Renogy, which get their power from our 6 100 watt solar panels that are mounted on the roof. We have a 60 amp MPPT charge controller from Renogy that controls the solar panel charge being put into the batteries. Also stored in this container is our 3000 watt inverter. We chose to go with the excessively large 3000 watt because we weren't sure if we were going to add an AC unit later, and we just wanted to make it a little future proof. Right now, I think the biggest thing we have is our 900 watt microwave, so I think we easily could have gone with a 2000, but I definitely don't regret the bigger purchase. So we did get the smart batteries from Renogy, and we opted to get the upgraded battery management system that gets us a really accurate description of what's coming in and out of the batteries, which just allows us to monitor everything really precisely. We do not have a DC-DC charger, which means we do not charge from our alternator. So if by chance the solar panels are not enough, and we have availability to hook up to a house plug, we do have our shore power inlet right here. Now, most campsites in America do have the plugs on the left side of all the campsites, but we opted to put it on the right side because it is closer to our battery system, which means we have to run less cable. And to be honest, we've been on the road for about 5 weeks so far, and we've only stayed at a campsite for 1 night the entire time. Again, our big plan here is to do as much boondocking as possible. We did install it sideways just because we have our handicap door right here, and so if it does swing open, it'll just shut it and not rip off the door.
So we're gonna wrap things up with arguably the most exciting part of the build, and that is our rooftop deck. So this is our rooftop deck. It is kind of a funky shape because we needed to leave enough room for our solar panels and for our max air fan, but it's perfect for 2 people. Jimmy and I can each lay on one side of this. It's a nice spot to eat dinner and maybe get a better view if we're somewhere nice.
But that is it for our tour. If you're interested in how we built all this, we do have a complete build series on our channel, so go check that out if you're interested.
Coming up, we're gonna be traveling around North America in this bus, so subscribe if you wanna follow along, and we'd love to have you on our journey with us.
Yeah, we are only getting started. So we'll see you next week.
Bye.